So welcome everyone. It is great to have everyone here. We'll hand over to Jamie again once he's ready to join. But just quickly, we'd love to introduce our amazing panel. Justin, can we start with you?
Yep, sure. Hello, my name is Justin. I am a product manager here at Fourth Rev for our product management career accelerator and our product design career accelerator. I'm also a subject lead and facilitator for the product management course. My background is been in product and product design for the last decade, ever since changing careers and doing an MBA about 12 years ago. So I'm happy to be here and look forward to telling you a bit more about our course.
Thank you very much, Justin. And then we've got Eva.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on the panel today. So my name's Aoife. I'm a product manager at Workday based out in Dublin. I joined the Career Accelerator, just over 2 years ago. And since then, I've been working as a product manager straight out of the end of the course. So happy to share that experience. My previous experience before becoming, transitioning to product management was predominantly in customer success and implementation in the tech space in kind of small startups. So it's been a bit of a transition, but lots of learnings along the way, and looking forward to talking through that today.
Amazing. Thank you. Great to have you here. And last but not least, Ruan.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. My name is Ruan Swanepoel. I've been part of the Fourth Rev team for the last 2.5 years. I'm currently People Operations Manager and a career coach, where I get to work with all of our students, obviously enrolled for different courses. I'm happy to share a little bit today about the career coaching process and the experience from that side. I personally have been a career coach for several years. I've got about 12 years of experience doing coaching and career sessions with people. And I've also been within the recruitment and human resources industry.
Great, amazing. Thank you so much. So just for the audience, a few practicalities on how the session is going to work. If you do have any questions for our speakers, please post them to the Q&A. We will be recording the session and we will share the recording with you afterwards. I'm just checking in if Jamie is able to join us on screen again. Just give him 1 second. Okay, we'll wait a bit and see if he can join. So now I think let's maybe set the scene. 140% increase in demand for product managers in the UK as of 2022, and 81% of hiring managers struggle to find PMs with a mix of technical and soft skills. People are drawn to roles for flexible, remote and hybrid work options, creative, strategic and diverse work, healthy earning potential and opportunities for growth, jobs across diverse range of industries, and future opportunities in consulting or entrepreneurship. Justin, is there anything that you would like to highlight maybe from this slide?
No, I think this covers quite a bit. What I can do is maybe add in how we support this through our learning. I don't know if maybe Eva, if you want to maybe talk about what drew you to product management, I can talk a bit about me. I mean, I also was a career changer, so I used to work in finance. Particularly, I started my career as an auditor. for Deloitte in Hong Kong, and then I worked in investor relations. And I did a secondment on like digital strategy and did like a lot of like customer research and adding new features to websites, and it really got me excited. Oh, here's Jamie about product management, and I went and decided to do an MBA, which is probably not as good ROI as doing this course if you look at the costs, but it really opened up my world to product management and product design, and to be honest, I took a little bit of a financial hit, which is unusual because I was coming from finance into product management originally, but it's what I wanted to do, and was quite passionate about it. But it does allow me to do both strategic and creative work at the same time, which is what I really didn't get to do with the finance world. We've got our host back. I don't know if you want to let is it
Yes.
Eva? Sorry. Is that right? If you want to talk about what's drawn you to the scene, and then maybe Jamie can take over.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Justin.
So, at a, I suppose, very high level, I was working very closely with customers in all the previous roles I was in, and hearing their problems day to day. And I think the thing that drew me most to the product manager role and through that this course was that I never really understood why certain features and parts of the product and strategic decisions were made when it came in the to the point of choosing what we did next. So I wanted to get closer to those teams and to that space. I'm still working very closely with customers, but more in the problem and solution space versus firefighting and defending the product that exists already. So that's what drew me here. And at that point, I found this course kind of by accident almost, but it's worked out for the best.
Thank you so much for sharing, Eve, and thank you, Justin, for taking over. Apologies again, everyone, for the technical difficulties. I am back now, and just to catch up where we left off, please use that chat function for any comments that you have for myself. Our team will be looking at it, and do use the Q&A function for specific questions that we are going to get into later. So if we move on to the next slide, I'd like to take a look at a few of the key benefits for anyone considering joining the Career Accelerator. And we really look at 4 key benefits, which we'll touch on with each of our guests today. But practical projects is at the forefront. We don't want our program to only be purely academic. We want to bring the industry standard to the forefront of our curriculum, and that is what we focus on. So we take part in hands-on projects with real world application. The next pillar is support, and this is to build confidence and clarity with a career coach who we have on the call today, Ruan, who will be speaking more about that, and a success manager who guides you throughout the program in the background. We have the King Certificate, which is a major benefit to your CV, to your online presence, to show future employees that you are very dedicated to your education and skill building as well. So you'll earn that certificate, which you'll carry proudly, of course, and the structured curriculum that we have, which covers all the bases of the product lifecycle, covering an end-to-end understanding of what it means to be a product manager. Now, if I could jump to Justin for my first question. And Justin, I'd like you to give myself and the audience some insights into the program structure. So what we key look at here is core modules, employer project, and some of the frameworks and how this relates to this in-demand industry of product management.
Sure, no problem. I guess I'll start by first and foremost, which is your box in the top left here, is that we teach project-based learning. So the entire course is based on projects, and there is like one big mega project, as Eva knows, that is throughout the whole project, where you've just been hired as a product manager for a fictional indie moving streaming startup. And you've been tasked to help achieve set goals and metrics by optimizing the current product and creating new features. It's actually quite complex. We give you a number of data points, constraints. You have prototypes, there's team members. I'll break it down course by course, Jamie. So You've got course 1. You start off by performing competitor analysis, market analysis. You identify and craft your target persona. You define the value proposition, which is very important for product managers. We'll talk a bit about that skill on identifying value as a product manager later. You ideate and you actually do some lo-fi prototyping, which you concept test with real with users, and then you present back to your stakeholders for the course 1 submission. In course 2, so there's 3 main courses, you then translate your product ideas into a minimal viable product. You develop a product roadmap, a user story map. You actually develop a mid-fidelity prototype, which is pretty rare for product management courses because it is quite detailed design. But we think this gives you much better knowledge of the design process and sets you up better for real-world success than if you don't get exposed to any of those design tools. So you actually be exposed to some design tools. You then do your product demo for your stakeholders. And then you suggest how you're going to test and validate your product and design choices with the option to perform usability testing if you have time. Then in course 3, which is our final of the main courses before the Empire project, you are bringing all your product features to market. So you're developing your go-to-market strategy, your product positioning, your comms to stakeholders, establishing success metrics, and analyzing post-launch insights. So basically, the idea is that these are all things that you would do as a product manager. They're kind of like your key activities. And of course, after this project, you get the employer project, where you are working on a real-life problem with a real-life client. Currently, it's with Sky. It's been with working on an accessibility feature for TV, but we've also done work with DocuSign. It's essentially the same, but on a smaller scale, and you're working with a team. And then I guess the last bit that I will share is, of course, these are the activities that we have you doing, but we also do deep dives on a lot of other topics. So we deep dive into product strategy, user research, agile with the capital A, so agile software development process, things like PRDs, product requirement documents, which is very common in the product space, design thinking. We teach you the basics of technical stacks, which is really important, product release planning, and then we touch on marketing, pricing, and sales strategies, things that are a bit peripheral to some product manager roles or more integral for others. Yeah, that's everything as quickly as I can do it. It's quite, for people that have done it, it's quite a not intensive course, but it involves a lot of stuff in the course. So it's quite comprehensive.
Thank you so much, Justin. And that was very technical breakdown indeed. And I'm sure our audience definitely appreciates that. Don't forget, you can visualize everything Justin said on our full curriculum. It will have every module we have across the 3 courses, and it will highlight what we're going to be covering in each module. So thank you again. I'd like to jump to Ruan, our career coach, one of our fantastic career coaches, for our next question. Ruan, can you perhaps elaborate just a little bit on the coaching function at 4threv and their future success?
Thanks, Jamie. That's a great question. So coaching at 4threv is at the heart of support for career accelerators. I think the idea is really to empower our learners to be able to actually build out their own resumes, be able to build out their LinkedIn presence and profiles. How do we do networking? How do we prepare for different interviews and different roles? I think there are a lot of experienced career coaches that are dedicatedly working with allocated learners, and you would have a journey that you go on with this career coach. So you tend to start off with an introduction session where some of the general kind of information about our coaching process is shared. Then for those of you who have enrolled for instance, 6 career coaching sessions, there are a few different options that will be shared with you, I think, as you go through the application process. You would then have this coach guide you throughout the course of your Career Accelerator on these different things. So you can see it as a parallel process of running the Career Accelerator course, where you would be doing more of the technical content and running through the practical experiences that you gain and build up. And then obviously the coach is geared to actually help you become empowered enough to build out the confidence and the skill set that you need to actually successfully apply for different roles, and to be able to actually negotiate if you are someone looking to advance in your career within your specific employer or a specific environment already. I know that you will think of yourself as someone who fits into one of these kind of broader categories, as either a career starter, someone who's really starting out with their career and getting going with the basics, or someone who is a career changer looking to make a shift from one specific role or industry or environment into another, or someone who is an advancer who wants to basically use the Career Accelerator's contents to further themselves, to align whatever they're currently doing in their career path. And our coaches are geared up to basically assist and to provide you with the right tools and the right knowledge set to achieve those goals. One of the things that we always share at Fourth Rev is our North Star, which is career outcomes. It's important for us to be able to guide you on this journey to achieve the outcome that you set as part of our goal setting process in the coaching environment. And the beauty of this is we work obviously quite closely with the rest of the support team. So you would have a dedicated success manager, as Jamie mentioned earlier as well. And usually what we then do is work together with the broader team to ensure that we support you with what you need. So yeah, I hope that gives a bit of an indication of how this works. Some of the challenges that we find people typically struggle with is uncertainty or lack of confidence. I know that I want to make perhaps a career change, or I want to step into a certain direction, but I just don't feel like I will have the skills or the confidence at the end of the day to really pursue this opportunity. So a lot of people feel like they are frauds or fakes. So we deal with those things definitely throughout the course of our sessions. There's a lot of people who struggle with anxieties, for instance. The realities for a lot of people are obviously balancing out things like quality of life questions, financial questions, family support questions. And yeah, you can't help but bring all of those factors in at the end of the day when it comes to coaching, because it all plays into what motivates people and drive them into making these career decisions. So yeah, I'm happy to share a little bit later on, but we'll obviously be able to take on that journey with you as part of this course. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Rowan, for those insightful words. And as Rowan said, we have a mixture of career starters, changes, and advances on our program. So don't feel that you are out of place if your background doesn't necessarily fit the standard picture. So please let us know in the chat function while we're on the topic if you are a career changer looking to change careers, and potentially why you're looking to switch out of your industry. If you're a career advancer, let us know what's the next steps for your career. And if you're starting out, well, let us know a little bit about your university journey as well. To jump to our next panelist, Aoife, what was your experience of the curriculum and the course designs? Is there any highlights you can speak on about the practical nature or the structure of the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the thing that initially drew me to the course was the range of different approaches and elements of the curriculum itself. I'm not somebody who can sit down and do everything by reading through, an online course or something. So there was structure to it. It was clear what you were working on at what time. And alongside that, there was accountability as well. So there were milestones, and there were facilitator sessions, and there was points in time where we could come together with a wider cohort to chat through what we were working on. So you weren't doing it in isolation. And I really need that accountability. I need to be able to ask questions. I need to be able to bounce ideas off people, but you could also still work at your own pace. So it's come up quite a few times, but there were a lot of people with different backgrounds, different type of experience, which all brought different ideas in those sessions. And I think the structure of the curriculum allowed people, some were in my cohort were had been teachers, some had worked in product before but wanted to get more experience and more of a framework to how to excel in their current career. So there was lots of different people doing the course in different ways, but because the curriculum had a structure without being overly structured, it helped a lot because everybody could do it in their own way and still collaborate and still learn from one another as well. And that's why I initially chose it over any more formal certifications that you would be doing in isolation, I guess.
Thank you so much for sharing. I've just momentarily turned my camera off. Hopefully the audio is a bit better. But thank you for that. I see 3 comments in the chat function from Attila, Lloyd, and Angia. All seem to be career changes. Lloyd being an e-commerce manager, and Angia also says looking to change country and experience something different in a different industry. Aoife, did you see many career changes on the program? Was it a blend of changes and advances in your cohorts?
Yeah, in the cohort I was in, it was predominantly career changers from what I remember. A couple were in maybe more junior product or product related roles, and they wanted to just ramp up their experience alongside their day-to-day work. But the majority were career changers. And I noticed in the Q&A there was a question about where people were coming from. In my cohort, there were all sorts. So in the group project, the team that I was part of, somebody had come from marketing, somebody was an architect and project manager in that space, somebody owned their own clothing company, I think. So it was a really vast mix. Not everybody was on the course to specifically become a product manager directly from it. Maybe they just wanted to improve their skills in that area, whether it was for their own, entrepreneurial direction, whether it was for trying to get a promotion in work or transition to a role that was slightly more on the product side. But it was a really big mix, and that helped loads. There wasn't really anybody with the exact same background as I had, so there were a lot to learn from.
I see. No, thanks so much for sharing. And I see a few more comments in the chat coming through from more career changes. And I see one currently product manager in IT from Chrissy Garnett. So thanks so much for sharing. I'd like to pose another poll to the audience now, and the poll pop up momentarily. But if you could let us know which of the following is your biggest challenge when considering this career accelerator. So do you think it's balancing work and studies? Is it the financial investment, support for transitioning into a product management role, or is it understanding the career opportunities that are involved? So select one of the 4 options, and then we'll get back to this answers a bit later on. But if we continue moving forward in the presentation today, we want to touch a little bit more on Aoife's experience, since she's experienced the program firsthand, and she'll be able to give you very good insights on what you can expect today. So please continue posting those Q&A questions to Aoife. We will have a dedicated time to look at them. So Aoife, if you could give the audience an overview of your personal journey in this career accelerator, and if you could start with some of the challenges that you faced in that initial decision-making process before signing up.
Yeah, of course. So because I'd come from more of a customer-facing career before, I had also reached a point in the company I was working for before I looked into this course where I'd gone through burnout. So I think one of the biggest challenges for me was how to transition roles without putting too much stress and burden on myself. And this course and the structure, I suppose, supported through that. So in my case, I had looked at transitioning in the company I was in into product, but it felt like it was going to be quite an overwhelming experience. I'd be working between two roles, and that probably wasn't going to be very achievable for me, given I'd come through burnout and was sort of on the rise out of that at the time. So for me, I saw this course as a restart of everything. It had enough structure. There was things I had to be accountable for. I felt like I was doing something for myself and to progress my career long term. But it wasn't an overburden for me with the time commitment and the various classes and courses that I was taking on. Um, the biggest challenge then was trying to consider whether or not it was going to be enough to get me to where I wanted to be. And in my case, I did want to look for a pure product manager role of some sort. Talking to the team, the enrollment team, I think I was in cohort 1, so there weren't actually other previous students to talk to directly, but talking to the enrollment team helped quite a bit, sort of reassured me. And the beginning of the course, it eases you in. So you get a good idea pretty early on whether or not it's going to be achievable. I know in my cohort, there were 1 or 2 people who had a lot of personal things going on, and the course was flexible to support them. So it's not as, I would say, strict as going into a university degree. If personal things come up and you need a bit of flexibility, whether that just be an extension on one of your courses because you have a family commitment, those sort of things are there. There is flexibility. And that reassured me that I would be able to work it around my life and other things that I needed to do at the time. In my case, I was actually moving from the Netherlands back to Ireland, buying a house, trying to organize a wedding, all of these things alongside. So between everything, it did become a very full-time job, but it never felt like this was a stressor, in that it just felt like I was doing something for myself, that when I got back to Ireland, I would be able to put myself forward for the role without having to start over.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing, Aoife. I know our audience is resonating with this. We've had one comment from Ati saying he's experienced massive burnout as an account manager. The customer demand and the need of business constantly growing and upselling has really made him feel the same. And another comment from Andy is doing something for myself is always the best reason. So she really resonated with that as well. How do you find that since joining or since graduating, how have you overcome these challenges of burnout? Was it any skills that you learned on the program, or was it simply the new role of being in products, came with those benefits?
Um, Probably a bit of both. I think because it was a full reset for me, I set new boundaries very early on in my product manager career. That it was also with some support from my success manager and the career coach, Tracy, that I worked with on the course. Um, I went into product knowing that I'd still be working closely with customers, and every role is going to have some kind of stress, but I I didn't rush into it. I applied for roles where I was quite upfront about what I was looking for. I made hard choices based on what I was applying for, and I spent that time to do the work to, again, with the career coach, we mapped out what I really wanted, what I definitely did not want, whether that be in a company or a role. Um, and the career coach challenged me quite a bit when I said I was looking at something in particular, or if I had done an interview, I'd go back to her to speak about it. And I think there was 1 or 2 instances where you think you're starting new or you're career changing, you have to say yes to the first job opportunity. You have to say yes to anything. I definitely didn't, and I ended up waiting for something that aligned better with the culture, with the style of working, with the intensity or of a company that I was ready for, because my main thing was I didn't want to get back to a place that I'd been in previously, where I was just saying yes to everything, but to my own at my own expense. So yeah, it was a complete reset and a lot of work on challenging myself and having other people do that as well.
No, I hear you. And thank you so much for sharing those insights. And I can imagine that the audience, might be feeling that same sense, as you're describing it. Would you mind sharing the favorite moments or aspect that you've had on the program?
I suppose there are one or two, I think, well, maybe two or three aspects of it that were highlights for me. The main one being for the first 3 quarters of the program, you're working on, I presume this is still the same, but you're working on one core product, and you're doing it yourself. You're an individual product manager. You're working sort of all parts of it, but finally submitting that. I mean, during university, I wasn't someone who was overly proactive in my submissions for big projects and so on, but I really felt a sense of achievement submitting that and knowing that I'd put something together that I didn't really have any expertise in a couple of months prior to that. So that was a big highlight for me. And I remember I had my husband read it. He was shocked that I'd been doing that sort of on the side of our life and got so much together. So that was a big highlight. Um, the second highlight was the cohort that I was in was due to finish in June, and I actually got offered a role in March. So that was a highlight, but also a really scary turning point, because starting a whole new job while you still feel like you're learning, um, is is intimidating. And again, because of what I'd come out of, I wanted to be quite careful with that, but the team are really supportive. And the one thing that, along with actually getting that role, the interview process, had I done that interview process without being on the course, I would have been petrified going into probably each round of it, not knowing if I was a complete fraud being there and had just been lucky to apply. But the interview process that I went to was comfortable. It was the conversations that we were having with my career coach, with the success manager, in the facilitator sessions, with the rest of the teammates in the cohort. Um, and even the practical pieces of the interviews I was in, and this goes for my first role and the role I'm in now, were actual frameworks that we'd used on the course. So I was able to repurpose that and do it for a presentation for the role I was going for. So I think that was one of for my first role in product, and now my second, which I'm only just 6 weeks into. Um, the interviews were absolutely fine. And being new and being a career changer, you expect them to be really, really challenging. But I think they were easier than any of the interviews that I'd done for previous roles in the past, in kind of the customer facing roles that I'd been in.
Thank you so much for sharing. One thing you did mention earlier, and it's quite intriguing, you said that, you were in a mindset of saying yes to, almost all opportunities. And often when I speak to potential candidates as an enrollment advisor, often you get the question of, either job placements, getting placed quickly, getting placed into the first job opportunity that comes your way. And this seems to be quite a common mindset. And, as you're saying, it's more than that. It's about knowing how to say yes, but to the right opportunity. Was that a big part of the career coaching journey that you went on?
Yeah, definitely. So in the early days of the career coaching journey, it was more focused on, I suppose, challenging the CV and stuff that I put out there, even as far as my LinkedIn. So um, with the career coach I worked with, we looked at CV and LinkedIn very early on, and she basically said, what are things that you're putting as on these documents or out to the world on LinkedIn that you don't want to do again, and or didn't bring you joy, or didn't, weren't in your eyes a success? And I realized that there are so many things, even in just the responsibilities that I had, but also the achievements that I documented on, say, my CV, that I didn't want to be working in, for example, retention or renewals again. And yet that was top of some of my things. So that's what people are going to bring you in for. And then you end up back in that space again. So we really stripped back everything just to focus on the transferable skills to product, but also the things that bring me joy from previous roles, and companies as well. So then when I got to the stage of applying for places, it felt like if I did get rejected for something, it was probably a positive, because I didn't have on my application things that I didn't want to do again. So maybe they were looking for something else, and therefore it probably wasn't the right approach. The company that I worked for, straight out of the course, or from midway during the course, was a really small startup. And I had thought I didn't want to work in that area again, because I'd been in it for quite some time, or in a range of very small startups. But what I realized was that I really wanted to get a role where I had all the experience I could, basically, and to use all the different elements of the course. And you're not necessarily going to get that in a really big structured company like where I am now. That way I went in, I applied for roles in companies of a certain size, with a certain size team, with a certain type of culture. And it takes a while to research those things, but you do get there. And I got exposure from very start to end. So essentially everything that you do in the project throughout the course, I got experience of start to end. And now, coming out of that role, I know specifically to product what parts of it I'm best at, what give me energy, and what areas of it I'm not too mad on. And I was able to look at my next step based on those things, having had the full exposure in my first role.
Thank you so much for sharing, Eve. And I see lots of questions in the Q&A, so I will try and keep it moving as quickly as possible so we don't miss out anything. If we could move forward, we'd like to address some key questions for our panelists to go through today. So we'll have 3 questions up on the board now. I will ask Justin, if you could perhaps answer the first question that we have, which is, what advice do you give anyone pursuing a career in product management?
Yeah, sure. I think, well, step number 1, if you have no knowledge of product management, would be to develop, a foundation of the basics. So understanding like what the product life cycle is and the role of the product manager in that, strengthening your business acumen, learning super basic technical concepts. Like, you don't need to know how to code, but you should like know what HTML and CSS do, or like what JSON is, or APIs, database languages that are popular to use, like SQL. And I think for getting this basics and foundation around product management, that the course is obviously a very good way to do it, because we cover everything in the course. Okay, we're not deep diving into how to use SQL or write code, but we do introduce those topics, and then we touch on the really important activities which I mentioned in the project work for the product lifecycle. So I think learning that in some way, whether that's through our course, which obviously we recommend, or finding other ways to develop that. I think second, you need to identify your transferable skills. You will have lots of them. Every product manager comes from some other job. You're not like born a product manager. There are some that come like, graduate and become product managers. But a lot of them transfer to like from other roles within a product team, or they're coming from a peripheral field. But you want to identify some transferable skills that will work into product management. So like, for example, I had to do a lot of communication and work with senior leaders when I worked in investor relations. I was like writing scripts for quarterly conference calls and setting up meetings with hedge fund analysts, with like CEOs and CFOs of Chinese companies listed in the US. So I had a lot of experience communicating with senior stakeholders, managing their expectations and that kind of stuff. So demonstrating those abilities of working with stakeholders. If you've done any kind of like business or work or market analysis, like strategy, that's really huge. Any kind of work where you've worked with customers. So Eva, you talked about a lot of customer work. So one of the big skills that companies are looking for is like a customer-centric product manager and someone who knows how to leverage and use customer data to inform them. So I think if you have any experience in that, highlight that. And of course, if you have data analysis or experience of using like data to inform your decisions, that will be really huge. Not everyone has that on a large scale, but that can help. Third thing I would suggest, so you got your foundation, you've got your transferable skills. Those are more important than you think. Soft skills are really crucial. The third thing I would do is get mentorship. So try to find someone to mentor you who's like, why waste time trying to figure out what you have to do to become a product manager when you could find a mentor who's gone through that themselves and help you on that path and explain it to you. I was just listening to some Spotify mindfulness podcast I probably subscribe to about mentorships and how important they are. But that can be really helpful in like just doing informational interviews with those people. So finding someone through like a second connection or first connection on LinkedIn. Fourth thing, if you actually start applying for roles, I'm sure Eva, you did this at the very beginning, is like crafting your CV to have a PM focus. So like changing what that looks like, what your LinkedIn profile looks like. Ron can probably talk more on this. And I think the last thing I would add that is really valued in today's market. So someone had asked in the question about demand for product managers, if it's still popular. And I think it is like, okay, 2021 was a massive boom for product management hiring, and product management is still like very, very much in demand, but it's more competitive than it was in 2021 and the first half of 2022. And I think one of the ways that you can be really, really competitive is to take your experience in the current industry or product that you work in and look for product management roles in that field, because companies really value people that have experience with that industry, with that product. It can be a good in to that role. I mean, in fact, that's like how I became a product manager at Fourth Rev. I was like helping build the courses. And then I had experience in the product that we deliver. Okay, I have a product management background before that, but that like gave them comfort to take on the product management role. So I think it's quite a hefty list of a few things, but I think those are really, really valuable. I will, Jamie, just on that topic of that question people asked about the demand for other roles. I think one way to flip it in terms of competitiveness is like companies are being so, we'd say, cheap right now, and it's all about ROI and being efficient, is that for some companies, it's better to hire a junior product manager for less money that maybe is going to not be as skilled as a senior product manager, but can deliver and grow with guidance from other members of their team. So there is a lot of opportunity for companies that are looking to maybe create some more efficient hires within their teams. So I kind of answered two questions in one, because I had the Q&A on my right, and I just touched upon some of the same topics.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for those insights, Justin. The next question I'll jump to Ruan, our career coach. In your experience, what skills are actually most valued in industry? What are you actually guiding students on in your sessions with them?
Thanks, Jamie. I was really hoping that you'd ask me that, because I see the same as Justin, a lot of the questions tend to lead towards that. I think the number one problem with that fraud mindset that was kind of referred to earlier is people think of their job title as the main thing that is a hindrance to stepping into a new role. And there are actually so many different things that people have experienced and brought together that really does kind of align well and are transferable skills. I think the focus, obviously, of the Career Accelerator will be more on giving you that technical skill set and being able to empower you to bring that, to the fore. And Justin, obviously has commented on this to a great extent as well. But I think some of the softer skills that people really don't always think about is really basic things like communication and collaboration, which is part of so many roles. How do I actually then highlight those specific experiences and skills that I've got in different roles? I like the idea as well, as mentioned earlier, of not just focusing on, well, this is everything that I've done on my resume in the past, but really taking out the key transferable skills from different positions. So things like communication and collaboration are very big. Problem solving, critical thinking, again, things that we think, well, I might not have very specific product management, problem solving skills. Things like analytical thinking is critical, and finding root cause, analysis kind of processes in different roles that people have had. Project management is obviously very, very well related to that. I've seen a lot of people obviously go from user-centric kind of in positions as well. So things like UI, UX, data analytics and decision making, as Justin mentioned earlier. But yeah, I think there are a lot of different areas where you've actually got so many skills that you've already acquired in different areas. And we really need to see through that journey of coaching, how can we bring those things to the fore. I need to mention some very interesting examples because it, I think, answers another question that came up quite early in the Q&A. So when you look at trends, I think over the past 2 years, there's actually been a very interesting shift from where people would traditionally see, tech roles in PM actually shifting into various other industries. One of my favorite coachees at the moment that I'm working with is actually transitioning from being a chef into the retail, fast-moving kind of goods industry, utilizing the knowledge and experience that they've got of food and preparations and all the nutritional things to actually go into product management within that industry itself. And I think even she was surprised during the course of our discussion so far how many transferable skills she's already built up. And definitely going through this journey with her on the Career Accelerator has obviously then highlighted some other areas where the technical skills can, come to the fore as well. We've seen some other interesting transitions from someone who was a ski instructor and completely felt out of their depth, and as a kind of a fraud in the industry, really kind of stepping into a successful position as well. So I think it's very interesting how the trends, and especially over the past 2 years, where people only think of, like you said, some more traditional roles in finance or shifting over from the tech industry. There's actually really been a need and a demand to shift into other industries with product management as well. So yeah, I think those are some of the interesting examples of it. And it's really important that you actually sit with someone when you have these questions, and that you're able to see how to bring what you've got to the table at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Ruan. And just looking at the poll we did earlier, so we had 10% saying balance and work and studies, 50% financial investment, 30% support for transitioning into product management, and 10% for understanding career opportunities. So considering the financial investment being the highest, I'd like to make 2 points to this, is that, when you think of those, you're also going to be competing in the job market with, it's likely they are not going to be investing in their education. So this shows potential recruiters and hiring managers that you are invested in upskilling and being the best. And the second, we have an above £20,000 average salary increase on our program per year. So if you're thinking about the investment, you have to also think about the financial gains as well. You're only going to get out as much as you put in. Lastly, Ruan, just on that topic, now AI is a big part of our program. Could you briefly touch on how the AI could potentially increase someone's earning potential, or do hiring managers actually want to see AI on the CVs today?
Thanks, Jamie. That's also a really interesting thing. I can see this from two perspectives. The one is PM and AI, and AI and PM. So definitely with emerging trends and technologies, there are various opportunities opening up for positions within those industries. But I think besides that, being up to date with those emerging technologies, AI obviously has become such a big aspect of so many different areas of life at the moment. And there are definitely specific ways to utilize that throughout the course of someone's career in PM as well. I'm sure Justin can also comment a bit more on that. So I'd love to bring you in on the technical side of it.
Yeah, I'd love to add into this. I think there's a couple things happening. So with AI, you have the throughput of the product team is like there's much more coming through. So basically like execution is becoming much quicker. And I think in a few years, we are going to be at this point where like AI is commoditizing like a lot of the engineer work. And someone's got to be responsible for what goes into that product and what we should do. And then AI will execute it. And I think that product manager is the natural person for that. I do think that as product managers, we have to be conscious of engineers entering that competitive space because a lot of those roles are being replaced. I think that's a reality coming in, but no one is going to completely let AI control the product creation process. Even when AGI comes, we need that human loop for trust and control. And so it's going to be even more important that product managers are there to like make sure that we're placing value for the customer. So that value for the customer, that strategic acumen, soft skills are actually going to be ironically more important in the AI world. And this is one of the I don't know if we call it theories, but beliefs that we teach on we have a AI masterclass series. It's a 4-part series that we've run that's available to learners and alumni. There's recorded sessions. We actually have 2 of those sessions have been live. You can find them on YouTube. Maybe we can put links in the chat, Sam, or you can go to our YouTube channel and find them. There's one on an intro to product management for AI. So it kind of talks about like the introduction to the technology behind AI. And then we have one on how you can build your expertise and become a thought leadership in AI as well. And then so there's a couple of closed courses like how to integrate AI into your own product as a product manager, how to manage it. So we get very technical because I think in addition to having those soft skills that are going to be really important in the AI world, you also need to know how to integrate AI into your product, how to leverage it to create personal products, how to understand the risk of using AI for your product. Like there's I think Air Canada lost a lawsuit recently because of an AI chatbot recommendation it gave to a customer that was not right. So like there's things you need to know as a product manager in terms of AI risk and also the technology behind it. So yeah, it's going to affect it in both ways. But ironically, I do think it's the soft skills and the business acumen that's going to be even more important in the age of AI. Yep. Hope that helps.
Thank you so much for sharing, Justin. And again, for any of those concerning the financial aspects of the program, have a look at the statistics at the bottom of the slide. 87.5% of learners achieve their career goals within 6 months after completing the Career Accelerator. So if this isn't motivation enough, it's a very high success rate that we have. I will ask our panel, since we had a bit of technical difficulties earlier in the session and we have loads of questions to get through, would each of you mind staying just an extra 10 minutes to get through the questions? Justin, thumbs up. Ruan, Aoife. Great. And our audience as well, please do stick it around if you can. But if you can't, thank you so much for attending. The session will be recorded and put onto our YouTube channel where you can find lots more exciting video content as well. So if we can move into, or first, if you're sticking around, please just take a moment to type in the chat, from everything you've heard today from our panelists, what is exciting you most about pursuing product management? If it's any part of the Career Accelerator as well, please do let us know in the chat. So yeah, while we're waiting for that, Aoife, just a quick question to yourself before we look at the Q&A. What excites you most about product management as a career?
That's a tough one. As a career long term, so I suppose I went into it not knowing if I would stay in as a product manager forever, and I still don't know, and I don't think I'll know for some time. But what excites me most before I started and still now is I love problem solving, whatever way that comes, whether it's in my personal life or at work. And I just think there are so many opportunities to work on problems that haven't been addressed before. And whether that be in the company that you're working for, or if you in the future, which is something that I may consider, is starting your own thing. I think it's a really good basis. There are a lot of frameworks in product management that, from my point of view, could apply for many different types of roles. And yeah, that's kind of what drove me this way. My background, as I said, is more customer success and implementation, a mix of both technical roles and kind of non-technical roles. So I don't, I think the combination of skills will mean that I can go towards many different opportunities. Like doing product management, I could have gone back to customer success without having ever worked in this role, and I would have been better at that role because of it. So I think it just opens a lot of doors. It gives you a good basis and around the critical thinking and strategic thinking and problem solving. And that applies to kind of every part of life. So that's what excited me most and continues to.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, opening up the Q&A, first question from Mario. How many of these roles, so from our stats earlier, from the 140% increase in demand since 2022 for product managers are for juniors? I feel that there are not many entry-level roles for product managers, and all ask for experience within product management. So they want to know, in a nutshell, how important it is to have this experience already. Very common question I get from lots of students. Ruan, would you have any insights into this? And Aoife as well, I see your hand.
Do you want to go first, Aoife?
Yeah, I can do it. The reason I raised my hand was because this has come up quite a lot recently in conversations that I've had with people potentially joining the course. They've reached out to me directly. The one thing, so my experience before I started, I had 7 or 8 years experience in various different roles. I think I knew that I had a basis going into it, but not everybody is. Not everybody will have graduated from a course similar. Not everybody will have a ton of work experience. I was recently at something called a product tank meetup in Dublin, and something that came up again and again is a course like this will support you in building the basis for it. Advice that I was given when looking for a junior role or an entry role is that while a junior role may not always exist, there are a lot of product adjacent roles, I suppose you would call them, where you get very close to the product. And if you're strong in data, it may be some sort of data analyst role. If you're good with customers, it might be a product support role. If you're working very closely with the product team and taking on a course like this, you don't have to start as a junior product manager. You can start as a role very close to that. And more often than not, you're the prime candidate when a PM role comes up or as the company grows, because you get really close to some element of it. And you also have an in, probably in an area that you're stronger. So I saw, I think one of the other comments, or maybe it was part of this question, was, do you have to have direct experience, or do you have to be a graduate of a certain type? You don't. But you just have to look at what skills you have, apply for those roles. And if they're close to product and you take on a course like this one or something similar, you should be able to work your way into that. So I know searching junior product manager, no, I don't think much comes up, certainly in Ireland. But I'd say that's because a lot of those people are transferring and progressing internally in various different companies. So get close to it. And there's more often than not opportunities. And I've seen that with most of the product managers I work with now. They've come from similar roles or adjacent roles in the company.
Thank you so much. Justin or Ruan?
I was just going to add that to that point about not being very many junior product roles. A lot of times it's just product manager is the advert, whether it's junior or senior or not. So there is a strong reason you just might not see the word junior as much as with some other careers where junior is very common, like a junior associate. That's not always a thing in every company or in a lot of companies for product manager.
Yeah, if I can jump in, I actually wanted to comment that as well. I think that's a really important point. So when, again, you look at different roles, don't just look at the job title itself. There are also different product management roles where it is basically the equivalent of something that could be a junior or entry-level position with different titles depending on the industry that you're in. So yeah, I think looking a bit broader at different types of roles that are available is a really good good approach to take as well.
Thank you so much. Those are really good, good insights, and thanks for the question. Uh, I would say, Justin wants to know what tools would participants be using to develop their prototypes?
Yeah, sure. So sometimes we have people just doing it on like a Miro-like tool. Other people might pick up Figma. We don't specify, or we don't actually spend time teaching the tool in the course sessions. We have it on platform. So it's more of a self-taught activity because the emphasis again is not on becoming a great designer, but understanding how design works. What we focus on in the course is applying design principles, good principles, and a prototype that you can test. But yeah, there are tools. Usually, sometimes people use other tools. We're not closed. You can use any kind of tool available for mid-fidelity prototyping, but I feel like most people do it in Miro or Figma. Figma is the most
Thank you.
common industry used one for designers, but Miro tends to be used more on the course because we're not designers, right? We're product managers.
Thank you so much, Justin. And also, for sake of time as well, I see a few different questions on the Q&A about, being from a different industry and being concerned that you might not have the experience, you might not have the right skill sets. Remember, 70%, around that average, have been career changes. So those that have entered our program and been successful, majority of them have been in your position. They've come from a different industry. It's not been directly related to product management. So if this is a part of your question for the audience, know that you will be starting with career changes as well. You don't need a strong technical background. So many have come before you in similar positions without that product experience. So I just thought I'd knock out a few of the questions with that answer. But anything else, Justin or Ruan, on the career changes, because there is a few concerns in the Q&A.
Yeah, I think what I can comment just quick is if you were looking for a IT related role in the 1800s, you were very unlikely to find something, right? I think it's a big truth that product management in itself is also something that's developed and grown and been created to a certain extent to the level that it is now over the past few years. Although different variations of it may have existed in the past. So I think from that perspective, you'd be surprised. Again, there are various opportunities in different industries and areas where your personal transferable skills would really make you a great candidate, especially if you have something like this career accelerator that really gives you more of the technical skills and acumens as well. So I think that's a very big thing to look at. I can also perhaps comment, and Justin, if you want to add to this after, we've had various students who have taken their portfolios that they've built up throughout the career accelerator, and just on that basis as well, obviously kind of gaining these different skill sets and being able to actually show practical things that you've been doing, based on that, actually stepping into roles as well. So I think that's really important, and that's why it's important to ask yourself as well, why are you here today? Why are you considering this field of work? There must be something that's appealing to you and something that stands out to you already, and I think that's a really important thing to do.
Thank you so much for that, Ruan. A quick answer to an anonymous question: how the course is assessed. So we don't have exams or tests. We have 4 practical projects across the 6 months, which will be graded by your course facilitator and moderated by Kings afterwards. So no exams or tests for projects, which is how you will receive your grade. Quickly for Aoife, coming from a role where you were focused on immediate customer needs, how did you adjust to thinking more strategically about long-term product vision and roadmaps?
Yeah, so I suppose it takes time to get used to the different approaches. In my case, I'd worked in customer roles that were, in some cases, more proactive. So strategic approach was always there. On the same side, I had also worked in retention for quite a while, which is very reactive. I think in many customer roles and teams that I've been in customer facing teams, your approach is to be maybe overly empathetic with the customer. You want them to like you. You want to feel like they're heard. What I realized a while into product is that you're almost doing them a disservice by always saying yes, and I agree with you, and that is a big problem and it needs to be fixed. As a product manager, I've definitely honed my skills of asking the right questions and not giving away too much, not saying yes too often, not always agreeing and challenging a little bit to find the actual problem versus what somebody tells you. And when you understand those problems really, really well, it's very easy to think more strategically because you're looking at a bigger picture. You're understanding what direction you need to go in to solve what challenges they're facing. But I think it's more your approach to dealing with customers is what changed for me, and the rest sort of fell into place. And if you're working with other product managers or you're working just as one product manager with developers as part of a team, you will find pretty quick that the developers tend to be the ones that just say no. So you're trying to be somewhere in the middle. You're still the face of the customer, but you're pleasing two very different opinions usually, and that helps you settle into the role and thinking more strategically so that you can communicate that to all stakeholders involved, customers included.
Thank you so much for that, Aoife. And again, thank you for all those who have stuck around after time. It's much appreciated, but I do want to make sure that we do get through your questions. This is a massive life decision that you are considering making, so we want to cover all bases, but I also appreciate our panel's time as well. Very quickly, again, some IT background questions. So again, it doesn't matter what background you're coming from. We see so many different backgrounds: IT, marketing, data analytics. So again, don't feel pressured that you're coming from the wrong industry. I like this question from Anonymous, maybe for Aoife and Ruwan. I heard that product management is a high stakes job where you are accountable for the success or the failure of a product. This sounds very intense. So if something goes wrong, is your job on the line? Is this a myth, or is this a real reality of the industry?
I can go first. In my experience, it's 100% a myth. I think I very quickly learned that people might joke about it, but nobody expects all the responsibility on the product manager. It's the team, it's the company, it's the leadership in the company. It's everybody's responsibility to have the best product out there and for that to be solving the needs. Yes, you're the one that maybe signs off on it. Yes, you're the one who helps to define the product scope and the problem that you're solving. But if you're not involving loads of people and having this as a team effort, then you're doing it wrong anyway. So it should never be all on you. As a product manager, you shouldn't be choosing the exact feature you're making, how you're going to do that, and what it's going to look like. You need other input, and the more that's shared, the less you feel the pressure as well. But it's absolutely a myth from my experience anyway.
I can imagine that individual is going, phew. Justin.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure you've experienced this as well, Eva, but the reality is like all product managers don't just get to do whatever they want with the product. They're not really the mini CEO of the product like it often gets pitched. Like you have real CEOs to listen to that tell you to do things. Even if you are really the one closer to the product, there might be a higher business objective or another reason for doing something. And so you're not always the one making the final decisions, the risk, as Eva said, is definitely not all on you, and you're not like the scapegoat, for everything. So, yeah.
Thanks so much. If my sole aim is to start my own product-based company and not necessarily transition into a product management career, will the course curriculum help me build and launch my own product company? Justin, Aoife, Ruan, any comments here?
I mean, yeah, if you have no experience in managing or releasing a product, then the course will absolutely help. I mean, I think I would want to supplement that with maybe some startup. There's a lot of really good startup books out there. Yeah, I would recommend the course if you're unfamiliar with product management and what that takes, because I think well, I think it was you, Eva, who mentioned earlier, like a lot of the stuff can apply to other roles, such as if you want to start your own company. So, and a lot of the stuff that we learn is stuff that startups do in real life, like, lean agile and that kind of stuff.
Thank you so much. Any other insights from the panel? All right, so Aoife, a quick question for you. How were you able to apply for roles without prior experience in product management? As with past experience, employers are usually looking for people with experience. So you touched on this briefly, Aoife. It's not entirely necessary to have the experience, but this is a journey that you go on with your career coach to identify the process. Is this an accurate answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked a lot on my application, my CV, my LinkedIn, those core elements, so that what I was putting forward. I think, on LinkedIn, most people will have their headline being the role they're in. Somebody during the course just said aspiring product manager on the 4th Rev King's College London Career Accelerator. You're putting that forward. You don't have to be overly qualified. Everybody has to have their first role at some point, but if you show the other experience and how that will translate to the role, then that's when you're going to get the interview. And also, there's always an emphasis, use connections. A lot of, during the cohort I was on, the facilitators often would hear of roles that came up through their network as well, and they'd share those job applications. And I know I reached out to a couple of people I knew, not necessarily all working in product, but working in the tech space in Dublin, to see, have you heard of any small companies? Do you know anyone looking for roles in these areas? And I actually got my first role through a connection of mine who had shared the job description. So keep an eye out and use your network as much as you can. And by network, I mean existing ones, but also those on the course, because I was in the Netherlands, based in Ireland. Most of my cohort were in the UK. I think I was the only one in Dublin, and I knew a lot of people working in London, so I was able to share job opportunities that I knew I didn't want to go for myself, but I know some people that were on the cohort did apply for those at the time.
Thank you so much. Now, in terms of the career coaching benefit, we'll wrap up here. If I didn't get to your questions, please do book a time with your enrollment advisor. The links will be in the chat. Your enrollment advisor will be able to answer and iron out any further details that you need. But if you are applying for our January intake, there's a very exciting initiative. It's called our Career Coaching to Outcome Initiative. So this means if you register for our January intake, which is wrapping up next week. So by next week, Friday, please do get your applications in. But ideally, we are closing applications by the 20th. So to benefit from the incentive, apply by the 20th, which is next week, Monday. So 3 days, and you will have an additional 6 months access to career coaching. So usually it's under the program, but now we'll work with you even further to define your personal brand and your portfolio, prepare for pivotal career moments, and achieve sustainable career growth. So we want to provide you more value. It's a big investment, but the more value we can make it seem worth it, we are willing to do that. So let your career advisor know. Please book a time with them. Let them know you want that additional career coaching benefit, and get your applications in over the weekend. Now, to wrap up, I'd like to say thank you to all of our attendants. Thank you to our panel on behalf of 4th Rev. We appreciate everyone so much. So some key takeaways: applications close in 3 days. Please join us by Monday. book a call. Most importantly, with your enrollment advisors, we are here to guide you. We're here to make this decision easy and smooth. And or email us. So you can send an email to kings@fourthrev.com with any questions, and your enrollment advisor will be in contact with you. Again, I'm Jamie, an enrollment advisor at 4threv. Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.